How to Rat Ninja, Knight and Gutter Runners, yes. We're going to cover all the ninja. Let's start with Knight and Gutter Runners. And let's spoil this, the Warpstone-infused missiles means the damage split is flipped. That which was base damage is now armor-piercing, and vice versa. And that is insane. It's not without weaknesses, but it is insane. Recruit for 500 gold and 125 upkeep, Clan Eshin gets Knight Runners from a Tier 1 building. This is important because non-Eshin units are recruited for triple the normal recruitment cost plus 200%, unless you have campaign mechanics working in your favor. That's mid to late game mostly. On Ultra, this unit is 120 entities, which is high for a missile unit, with 6,720 health between them, and that's a low per entity health count. Armor is 10. Physical resistance is 20%. Don't overestimate the value of this. It muffles damage, armor doesn't block, and that armor won't block much. Magical attacks just make it worse. I'll link to my video on physical resistance versus armor because it is very relevant and I wanted it out before I had this video. Leadership starting at 48 is pretty bad, but clan rats are actually worst. Speed 54 and shard speed 60 are high, but we'll get to that later. Melee attack begins at a mere 24, attack interval 4.3 seconds, which is normal enough for infantry, no splash damage. Melee defense is 14 by default, which is truly horrible. They will take damage in melee. Weapon strength 26 is weaker than the human standard 28. This split is base 20 and armor piercing 6. Charge bonus is 12, which is half decent, and mass is 90. The regular unit gets ammunition 10 default. Range is a close range 70 meters. For Eshin, rather than base damage 10 and armor piercing 2 damage, it's base 2 and armor piercing 10. Reload time is 7 seconds, total accuracy 20 default as standard, calibration distance 40, so it's less tight groupings after that, calibration area 1.8 meters, so pretty tight, still capable of thoroughly missing a human-sized target or below. There is no multi-target penetration damage. This is a hide forest, vanguard deployment, far whilst moving unit, and while it has scurry away for speed plus 10% once broken or routing, while health is over 50%, and it's not routing, it's speed minus 10%, which is a debuff. Melee defense plus 8, up to a still miserable 22, and leadership plus 6. The only difference for the slings version is the missile weapon. Save 1, charge bonus 10 or 2 less. Ammunition of 22 volleys is actually industry standard. Range 140 is pretty decent, mid-level bow range, and of course it's no longer a flat trajectory shuriken attack. For Eshin, it's base 1 and armor piercing 10 before buffs, if any. Remember that's 120 entities slinging these bullets. Reload time is 1 worse at 8 seconds, total accuracy is actually 5 better at 25, calibration distance 85 is a fair bit longer, but calibration area 4.0 meters means the base drift is a lot higher, so it's less good at pelting a particular character. No multi-pen. And no fire whilst moving, that is totally gone. So, for Gutter Runners. This class is recruited for 700 gold and 175 upkeep. This is in a faction where clan rats are going to cost like 900 gold to recruit until the campaign mechanics make that easier. Once again, 120 entities. Health of 6,960 is 240 better unit-wide. Armor is 20, which is still quite low, but is literally plus 100% the armor of the original. Physical resistance 20% is the same. Leadership 54 is 6 better, which will match her. Speed is the same. Melee attack of 26 is 2 better, still well inferior to the Empire Swordsman standard, but at least beating out Hellstrider spears attacking Plague Bearers in pitched melee. Attack interval 4.3 again, no splash. Melee defense of 20 is a full 6 better. Since strength in numbers applies until below 50% health, this is effectively 28 or Orc Boy's basic level until then. Weapon strength of 28 drags this up to the Swordsman standard, base 21, AP 7. Charge bonus of 14 is 2 better, and mass is unchanged at 90. So, what about the shurikens? 12 ammo instead of 10. Same range of 70, damage in the Eshin roster is 3 base and 11 armor piercing. Reload time 7 seconds. Total accuracy 25 to start, so that is better. Calibration distance 50, up 10 meters to more accurate further out to the maximum range, which was unchanged. Calibration area still a tight 1.8 meters, and no multi-pen. In addition to the prior traits and the strength in numbers passive, the unit has stock by default. It only gains concealment bombs from Lord effects. We'll get to those. And an invisible hex 35 meters in radius called snare-net that debuffs enemy speed and charge speed by 10%. This is crucial to the effectiveness of their skirmish game. The slings version is back to charge bonus 10 only. Maybe they're big heavy slings compared to the size of the rat. Ammunition 24 is 2 better. We have changed to base 2 and AP 12 for the damage per impact. Normally it would be a weaker weapon for AP if it was not a Clan Eshin unit. Here the slings are actually stronger for that. Reload time is 8 seconds, total accuracy 30. That goes up with veterancy. Calibration distance 85 meters still. Calibration area 3.8 meters is slightly tighter than the Night Runner Slingers, and no multi-pen. We have lost fire whilst moving, but the rest stays. So what does this mean? Slings were the clear inferior armor-piercing choice in the past, but now the ratio alone is unbelievable. It's 120 rats firing, and, well, the accuracy is still not good enough that you'll be satisfied with results trying to eliminate a Dark Elf Sorceress Lord on demand. And that stuff's just difficult, even with the shurikens, because, you know, tall, slender targets, 1.8 meters, isn't just accounting for height, but width too. So even the shurikens will do a lot of misses to the sides, but if you're kiting Blackguard Corsair's dual sword version, it's a ton of damage thrown out to them that they're not able to respond to. On the other hand, basic bleak swords will absorb so much of those shurikens with shields that you'll feel cheated. Point being, the shurikens get your damage out fast. It's actually hard for runners to survive a battle long enough to use up all of their sling damage with Eshin because, what do you have for a frontline in the early game? So yeah, but even just the Night Runners can dish out a lot of damage given time. I will say that even in this supersized form, these are not weapons teams. They are not going to pump out damage at that kind of pace. And while physical resistance is nice, these are not tanks. They may be hybrid combatants to a degree, but decent melee combat needs to be graded on a curve, and decent for Skaven has hard limits. The poison variants just have poison on top. It takes a double building setup to do that, but poison is nice, folks. It's nice. Let's look at the redline skills briefly now because these two are a package deal. Infiltrator at 3 pips couldn't be simpler, applying only to these two types of units, including the poison variants. This gives you speed plus 10%, countering the strength in numbers debuff fully, and reload time reduction of 9%. That means getting their range damage out faster, whether the targets are good or not, and it means running out of shurikens that much faster. In this case, Gutter Wise would grant rank 7 and up hardcore runners leadership plus 5 and range plus 15%. In the tech tree, Devious Plans, which Eshin can start researching on turn 1, grants minus 5% upkeep to all units, which is going to prove quite important over the long haul. Fight Dirty, which takes a filthy 8 turns to research at the start of a game, so long a certain Eshin action might be actually worth it to speed this up. Gives Knight and Gutter Runners weapon strength and missile strength plus 10%, both are crucial for making them more efficient killers. Hit and Run is a luxury tech in a sense, but when skirmishing is a large part of your game, speed plus 10% is no joke, applying to all infantry faction-wide. Abduct Promising Candidates gives minus 5% upkeep and recruitment cost for Night Runners and Gutter Runners, a big deal when you're incentivized to mass recruit them. Intensive Training gives recruit rank plus 2 to Night and Gutter Runners. Enormous Caches says ammunition plus 25% for a long list of weapon teams, and infantry. So, look forward to that. So how do we use these ninja rats? At its most basic, what to remember about these dirty rats is that the slings attack in a linear direction straight forward. Yes, technically it's an arc, but an arrow pointing straight forward is by far the easiest way to think about it, because they can arc over a front line and city walls, not efficiently in the latter case, not that accurately, but for Eshin, every bullet will ignore armor and thus be a lot more dangerous than Skavenslave equivalents, so everything contributes. In contrast, throwing star versions attack in a circle around the closest unit to the enemy. In practice, what this means is that they can attack while moving straight backward, moving off to the sides, and so forth. Both of these unit types are support units. The fact Eshin removes their main fail condition Inability to effectively damage armor doesn't remove the others, like being unable to fire effectively when engaged in melee. The Throwing Stars version cannot fire effectively through an engaged friendly melee unit from the back. With heroes it won't matter, but with units it will. They need to be off to the side to keep up a lot of fire or have open field opportunities. Sometimes they will fire while transitioning through a friendly unit to the back, but they won't actually shoot through the unit once they're actually in the back. All of these units have at least 3 layers of defense. The armor is a constant, but it's weak, and therefore we won't rely on it. The physical resistance isn't effective on literally everything, but its effectiveness in skirmishing is wildly improved compared to melee. In melee, the first rats will die, it is inevitable. They'll accumulate damage, while those scurrying in the back are safe, at least until it's their turn, or the unit runs away completely. Against ranged attack, this completely changes. Here, the 20% softened non-magical attacks are spread across entities unit-wide, making it far more likely your entities will remain alive and start chucking. This means, despite the lack of shields, and when you consider skirmishing involves movement, they will stand up to fire absurdly well, and against conventional mixed armies, including settlement garrisons, they'll be running away from melee troops and depleting them over and over. The third layer is loose formation. In finalizing this script, and Eshin content generally, I was doing fairly well in a minor settlement battle early in the Snikch campaign, but I cringed when I saw that some savage orc unit had broken containment, and I hadn't, this time, taken poisoned wind mortars off fire at will mode, which is a trick you can use if you're good enough, but I'm strictly middle of the road, so that's how it is. My runners suffered a bunch of stray shots. Then I checked out the actual losses after the battle. I'd lost 39 rats army-wide. The point being, despite the mortars delivering magical damage or dot direct damage, a few strays aren't enough to meaningfully deplete the units, much as they make me curse loose Clan Scryer technical specifications. This isn't a matter of armor, because the mortars are armor-piercing too. But basically the worst version of that is for some unlucky rat to get bonked by a mortar in the face. Statistically, a rat will, here or there, but most won't. It's very unpleasant, but they can survive some strays of even this, largely because their loose formations make it harder to do excess damage to them with an area effect strike. These 3 layers of defense make the runners the key units to winning battles with a minimum of casualties despite playing Skaven. You'll still take some unless everything goes your way, which is unlikely as Skaven, but still. For all the justified bad-mouthing of skirmish mode, if you need to use it, and you can get away with it, then yes, just do it. This is often when you have an early game and or mishmash army, and you don't always want night runners mixing with their default stock cousins. For open field starring, you probably do though. CA has seen fit to begin the Eshin campaign in a particularly cruel way to runners. Savage orcs are their worst case scenario for relative value. The armor piercing is useless except against a few boar boys and isolated war bosses. Physical resistance dampens even that damage, and the damage output, albeit not the auto-resolve power, barely exceeds that of Skavenslaves slingers. Well, it gets better, and I checked eventually, yes, Garrison Night Runners as Clan Eshin share the damage ratio flip. Briefly, here's the building rundown. The ninja building, as I'll call it, is tier 1 for Clan Eshin, 1 turn to build, Night Runners available at this tier, but also +1 hero capacity for assassins, and you can recruit from that building right there. You start with 1 capacity, so 1 tier 1 building, and it's up to 2. A separate building is required to increase the number of assassins further, and is the only way you have, I believe. Bell Polisher helps with Eshin Sorcerers. Tier 2 is 2 turns and gets you Gutter Runners, though you need a Pestilent Knave, a Tier 4 building for the Poison variants, so they're in effect Tier 4 units. They are better in every way. Tier 3 requires 4 turns, so that's 7 total, which is punishing. This gets you access to Death Runners, Eshin Triads, and +1 unit cap to Eshin Sorcerers and or Plague Priests, but the building only unlocks the Sorcerers for actual recruitment. Bell Polisher Ancillary, sometimes given for leveling up with a Bell Order building in the province, will add to their cap. Also, +4 to the recruit rank of assassins. So that's nice. Now that's in the same province, mind you, but still, that's interesting. This means you can build Knight Runners from a one-turn building available in even the lowliest of settlements, though Gutter Runners will be your mobile core. Knight and Gutter Runners are support units. The fact they support each other to a fair extent is good, but ultimately that's not how they're built. Neither can fire effectively with an enemy in their face. Both fire small missiles that will be absorbed by shields. Guard mode only helps a little. They need separation. For regulars, disengaging can create it, but slings need a front line of some sort. And the regulars want a front line, or you have no way to control the enemy's movement when it charges your mortars or plague claws or whatnot. Despite the auto-resolve and balance of power issues, for raw performance, Skavenslaves aren't just adequate, they are absolutely essential as Clan Eshin due to a simple reality. They aren't triple regular recruitment cost, like clan quote-unquote units generally. While Eshin triads have their uses, if we're discussing pure holding and blocking, so-called Clan Wars units, Clan Rats and Storm Vermin, are better because they add quality compared to Skavenslaves, yet are both fat 160 entity units themselves. Again, that's for pure holding and blocking. It is less claw-biting to play off a front line that can hold for a while, and during that time, your support damage dealers can do their thing. While that damage tends to be quite significant, since it's difficult to block, get that main character energy out of your head. The runners need a haymaker to work around. Snikch starts with Poison Wind mortars worth their weight in gold despite the friendly fire. Even something as simple as a Warpfire thrower or two can add a fair bit. There's a lot of options, and you don't need much of it, but some of it can be a help, and a game changer. Finally, we come to heroes and lores. This is why I went over the assassin and sorcerer parts, and while both have their issues, in context, it's extraordinarily simple. 2 or more heroes in a tangle are harder for the enemy to kill, but their coverage is weak. Yet, gutter runners, in guard mode if need be in close quarters, anything to keep firing, perfectly complement them, have little risk of serious damage to their own heroes since those guys have physical resistance, and point being is the speed of the damage accumulation that will break isolated units. It isn't the hero alone, it isn't the gutter runners alone, it's the combination of the two that works wonders. Also, you'll see some of it in my footage, but when the battle is won, the battle is not over. In a lot of cases, you'll have shurikens left, so take your mobile skirmishers and push them deep forward, take off guard mode if it's in the way, and throwing star everyone in the back that you can. There will be cases where this hugely helps you, and treble cost for Molder dog units might be spectacularly prohibitive, so this will be achievable on a budget, at least a realistic one. So, Lords. Snikch and Master Assassins have a lot in common here, but basically are making the skirmishers use concealment bombs, useful even for gutter runners in helping them get absurdly close to the enemy, and of real value if using the sudden kill right, and having snipe, as in stealth doesn't break when firing. Well, that can be nice for the slings too. If you're having trouble with a legendary battle for Snikch, use that. Assassins help them hit harder. Snikch helps them move even faster. Redline skills are more than decent. Techs tend to take a long time to research, but since you can spam these units even late game and still have them be seriously effective, come Dragon, come Iron Demon, come Lokir Fellheart with 115 armor, these techs will pay off when you have to dig deeper. Skaven are good at that. Oh, and Snikch's legendary items have relevance, making the units even higher leadership and helping them in melee near him while fighting, if they must. I mean, don't forget they do have melee ability, you just prefer not to have to use it. So, the special buffs are just making the existing tactics better, which is why I didn't dwell on them. There are 2 other uses that mostly apply to the regular troops. The first is what I call a false front line. If you are fighting like a cornered rat and have your limited real melee units blocking off your over-the-shoulder missile units, flat arc shuriken units can't do damage from the back, and yet may have relevance in the front firing as much as they can, even fighting in melee, and then pulling back because their losses are not relevant to winning that battle, only in exploiting the win through pursuit of the enemy once the enemy is broken. So they're taking hits you can't even afford to have clan rats take. The clan rats are more reliable in the do-or-die melee phase. This is a calculated choice, but if you play your cards right, you're actually reducing total losses through it. The second is when facing flying opponents. Here, the skirmishers absolutely do have a role in back, and I would go so far as recommend putting everyone on guard mode so that they throw whenever the slightest opening occurs, despite Onyx Croman being in your face and at your backs. The 360-degree fire is a huge advantage over slingers in this situation, and the whole point of such a flying unit is to disrupt conventional firing missile troops. So having your unconventional troops back there as surface-to-air shuriken launchers and last-ditch melee? Good stuff. Speaking of air, at some point you're going to chase down sky lanterns and ignore most of their armor while knocking them out of the sky, and so forth. It's fun, by the way. Skaven don't exactly do flying units, so it's good to have the option of this, but there's still plenty of reason to bite the bullet and get a rattling gun unit here or there to help. Or Giselles, they're really good at it. And those costs will come down late in campaign. But remember that applies to recruitment cost. Upkeep is standard until we get really deep in the tech tree. For really big problems, tie something down and fire both slings and shurikens at it, and if you have open lines of fire, it works. If not, well, do it with the slings and dance around with the shurikens. They'll hit something. And every bit of AP damage helps to thin blobs. But this is why Black Whirlwind, Mortars, and so on are needed to complete the package. Finally, let's just emphasize, even though you have one heck of a weight, getting gutter runners with poison means that the net passive plus poison slows down the speed of pursuers by 25% total, a significant amount that you will notice. This upgrade wouldn't mean nearly as much, except for the fact you can do it at range. That means a slower enemy advance without having wolf rats eliminated in the first minute of the battle to inflict poison that way. Just remember, you need some way to destroy the big clusters, but the weapons teams exist. Even without all of the DLCs, you get a few. Take care, and have fun honoring the way of the rat foot. Mobility is key, and that's why I emphasize so much having some kind of pinning force to make the enemy stop moving, because Jade Warriors in the face isn't a problem because of their armor so much as their stupid shields.